Hi, everyone. Really nice to see you this afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Allison. I am the founder and chair of the graduate program in Ecology, Spirituality, and Religion here at the California Institute of Integral Studies. It looks like my screen sharing just stopped. Is that the case? There we go. For some reason, it grayed out for a moment. All right. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us all today. And I am joined by Charlie Forbes, who you've met, who's our program coordinator in Ecology, Spirituality, and Religion. He's also a master's graduate of the program. So he's a really great person to ask questions about what it's like to be a student, as well as he knows the administrative ins and outs of the program. And today I want to locate ecology, spirituality, and religion within California Institute of Integral Study and within our School of Consciousness and Transformation, which is our graduate school of liberal arts. I want to describe the field of religion and ecology to you and tell you about some of its high points, and then talk specifically about the ecology, spirituality, and religion program at CIIS, get into the nuts and bolts of what's the coursework like, how long does it take, those kinds of basic things. And as Charlie mentioned, we will have time for Q&A at the end, probably around 10 minutes or so. So please keep your questions, and then we'll open up the floor for discussion at the end of the structured presentation. So I always like to show you the building that CIIS owns, even though you may or may not have occasion to visit this building in downtown San Francisco. We do have a physical presence, even though this program is an online program. And CIIS is in fact located on Mission Street. So when I used to walk to the building, I would be thinking about our mission of integral education, which is built on 7 ideals that are pretty unique in higher education. We practice an integral approach to learning and research, meaning that we endeavor to incorporate mind, body, and spirit into our learning and research. We affirm spirituality. This is quite unusual in higher ed. A lot of universities are a bit allergic even to the study of religion, let alone the idea that spirituality is something important and something that could be studied. But as I'll explain in a few moments, spirituality is really central to the founding of CIIS, and it continues to be important to our mission. So we affirm that spirituality exists and is important to many people. We don't require or prescribe any form of spirituality, but we do recognize it as an important force in people's lives. We're committed to cultural diversity. We're continually enhancing and understanding and extending our ability to walk and work and walk with diverse groups across a range of axes of diversity. We think that this is a strength, and that we're committed to doing the work to becoming better and better at reaching across axes of diversity. We foster multiple ways of learning and teaching, meaning that we try to extend our teaching into creative modalities. We try to go beyond the sort of lecture model to perhaps incorporate embodied practices or meditative practices or different ways that learning can be embodied and move through a person's whole mind, body, and spirit. We advocate justice and sustainability. And this is, of course, central to the mission of the Ecology, Spirituality, and Religion program, too, that we're interested in environmental sustainability and social justice. So these are core values of CIIS that find their expression in our program in Ecology, Spirituality, and Religion. We support community. Many students at CIIS find dear lifelong friends. They find close interlocutors, people that they like to be in dialogue and in partnership with. The faculty community is likewise really rich and tightly connected, and we just try to encourage the idea of being a community at CIIS. And we strive for integral and innovative governance, meaning that we strive to incorporate students, faculty, and staff in all levels of decision-making. We try to get multiple viewpoints about different issues going on at the university, and incorporate everyone into our deliberations on those issues. So these are the sort of overarching principles of CIIS that I think really set it apart from other universities. And as I said, I wanted to share how spirituality is integral to our founding. CIIS was founded in 1968 to build a bridge between Eastern and Western thought and promote intercultural understanding and harmony. It was developed around this idea of a non-sectarian universal religion that would contribute to creative self-development and self-fulfillment. It was founded on the inspiration of this Indian guru named Sri Aurobindo, who lived in the 20th century. And some professors at Stanford wanted to build a university that would be this bridge between Eastern and Western thought. So they reached out to him and asked who he could suggest who could help in this really creative endeavor at the time. And he suggested Dr. Haridas and Bina Chowdhury, who came over from Calcutta, India to San Francisco and helped create this university. And now these days, with a yoga studio and a meditation center on every corner, you might think, well, what's the big deal? But in 1968, this idea that Eastern thought and philosophy would have something to say to each other was pretty novel. And so this and over the years, we've had many notable teachers, including Alan Watts, a leader in integrating Zen, Buddhism, and Vedanta to the West, Ralph Metzner, who was a psychedelic pioneer and leader in consciousness, Charlene Spretnak, who's a leading ecofeminist scholar, and Brian Thomas Swim, who just retired in the spring. Sadly, he's not a current ESR professor anymore, but he was co-author of Journey of the Universe book and film, as well as many other works like The Universe is a Green Dragon and The Universe Story. So many creative, groundbreaking thinkers have taught at CIIS over the years. And then within CIIS, we have, I think I missed something. Okay, within CIIS, we have the School of Consciousness and Transformation, which is, I said, is our graduate school of liberal arts. And within this school, we have a number of humanistic graduate programs that offer master's and PhD degrees, including anthropology and social change, East-West psychology, which is a theoretical psychology program as opposed to a counseling psychology program. We have a Master of Fine Arts program in writing and creative inquiry. We have a Master's of Transformative Leadership and a doctorate in Transformative Studies. We have Human Sexuality Studies, Women's Spirituality Studies, Integral and Transpersonal Psychology, also a theoretical psychology program, and the Philosophy and Religion department that comprises the Ecology, Spirituality, and Religion program, founded in 2013, and the Philosophy, Cosmology, and Consciousness program that has been around since 1995. And these programs are kind of sibling programs. The boundaries are fairly permeable. Students can take classes in both. And I show you all these other programs in the School of Consciousness and Transformation because you can also take electives in these other programs. So many of our students have interdisciplinary interests and want to reach over to psychology or reach over to human sexuality or women's spirituality. And that's definitely possible. There are a good number of electives, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But this gives you a sense of kind of the range of possibilities that you can draw on within the School of Consciousness and Transformation. Now, to talk a bit about the field of religion and ecology, this is a field of scholarship and praxis that has grown up over the last 30 years or so. And it began with realizations both on the side of religions, religious leaders, philosophers, theologians on the one hand, And then on the other hand, environmentalists, environmental policymakers, ecologists on the other. So on the one hand, religious leaders began to see that religions don't happen in a vacuum, but that the changing environmental conditions, the changing social conditions affect followers and practitioners of religions. And so religions began to see that they needed to be in dialogue with other fields and other disciplines like science, economics, policy, and gender studies to seek comprehensive solutions to global and local environmental problems for a sustainable future. And then from the point of view of environmentalists and ecologists and environmental policymakers, they began to see that although the environmental movement had been going on for a few decades, it didn't hold complete solutions to our environmental woes. And in fact, they were getting worse, not being ameliorated. Certainly there have been wins in environmental policy, but environmentalists thought that the environmental movement had not been as successful as they hoped. And environmentalists began to think that there are some deeper situations, deeper problems going on that we need to look at. And they started to consider that environmental issues are not only issues of science, economics, and policy. It's not a matter just of getting the science right and conveying it to people or making that perfect policy, but also environmental issues are matters of morality, spirituality, consciousness, and justice. And so we've seen this move in the environmental movement over the last 30 years really to turn towards issues of morality and justice much more. And as part of that, environmentalists and ecologists began to think about the role of religion and spirituality in relation to the natural environment. And so these realizations came together to create a new field. One of the beginnings of the academic field that we can point to is a conference on spirit and nature at Middlebury College in Vermont in 1990. And this is, as far as we can find, the first time that these two large areas were brought together, spirit and nature, in a conference rather than just being focused on the scientific aspect of environmental issues or just on spirituality. They came together. In 1993, a religion and ecology group was established at the American Academy of Religion. The American Academy of Religion is the largest scholarly body for the study of religion. Its conferences each fall attract around 10,000 scholars, not only from North America, but from around the world. And there are many different approaches to religious study explored, many different religions explored. And so establishing a group focused on religion and ecology showed that this was a dialogue of significance that was significant to this major scholarly body. Between 1996 and 98, the Forum on Religion and Ecology was founded. It began with a series of 10 conferences held at Harvard that looked at different religious traditions and what they taught about ecology, nature, and environmental issues. So there was a conference on Judaism and ecology. There was one on Christianity and ecology, Hinduism and ecology, Islam and ecology, so on, for 10 different world religious traditions. And after this series of 10 conferences, it became clear that there was, again, a large cohort of people interested in this dialogue, doing research on different religious traditions and nature and ecology. And so the Forum on Religion and Ecology was established to be a sort of connector and network for these various scholars and practitioners. And it's now based at Yale. I'll have a little more to say about that later. They're a great friend and partner to us at Ecology, Spirituality, and Religion. And in 1997, the first journal in this field was established, Worldviews, Global Religions, Culture, and Ecology. And in 2005, the Encyclopedia of Religion and Nature came out. This is a great compendium of so many themes related to this intersection. In 2006, we saw the second journal for our field established, the Journal for the Study of Religion, Nature, and Culture. And in 2008, the Society for Conservation Biology established a religion and conservation biology working group, showing that conservation biologists working in the field were interested in exploring local people's approach and perceptions of the religious aspects of conservation biology issues. And as you look at this graduate program in ecology, spirituality, and religion, you might wonder, is this the only one? What other programs exist? Indeed, we have about a dozen programs in this field. Since the late 1980s, Drew Theological Seminary in New Jersey has offered a PhD in religion and environmental studies. The Elliott Allen Institute of Theology and Ecology at St. Michael's College at the University of Toronto offers master's and doctoral degrees. The University of Florida offers a PhD in religion and nature. Yale University offers a joint master's in religion and ecology between the School of the Environment and the Divinity School. And there's one more. Oh, what happened? That's strange. There we go. Sewanee University offers a master's in religion and environment, and then our program was launched in 2013 as well. And there, in the last 5 years, there are a bunch of new programs, especially at theological schools, focusing on the intersection of theology and ecology. We can also think of an activist force in this field of religion and ecology, meaning activists who draw on the moral authority of different religious traditions to make their points about appropriate uses of resources and interactions with nature. One beginning we can find here is in 1986, a meeting of the World Wildlife Fund in Assisi, Italy, that was headed by the late Prince Philip of the UK. He asked leaders of 5 major world religions to discuss how their faiths could save the natural world. And he asked them to make commitments from their particular faith perspective about what they could do to benefit the natural world. So this is a pretty novel request at the time, but it really launched this question of what is the role of different faiths in protecting the natural world. So in 1987, the North American Conference on Christianity and Ecology got going. There we go. In 1992, Green Faith, which helps religious leaders, particularly Christian religious leaders, become more environmentally knowledgeable so they can guide their congregations. That was launched. The Coalition on the Environment and Jewish Life got going in 1993, along with the Evangelical Environmental Network. And those two groups worked together with the North American Conference on Christianity and Ecology to advocate and lobby on Capitol Hill in the US as religious partnership for the environment. So from a number of different faith perspectives, they were advocating for environmental issues in Washington, DC. Between 1995 and 2019, the Alliance for Religions and Conservation was active in the UK. This group worked with religious groups all around the world to put their religious values into action in relation to nature and the environment through conservation projects. And so they helped identify the teachings of different religious traditions and think about how those could be applied to environmental conservation projects. They closed their doors in 2019, saying that they had set out to do what they had done what they set out to do. And this idea of religion and environmental conservation was now a more common idea. So they felt like they had achieved their goal and they shut their doors. And I'm not sure what's happening. These slides. There we go. In 1998, Episcopal Power and Light was founded here in San Francisco to help houses of worship look at their energy usage and adopt cleaner and greener sources of energy. And that grew into California Interfaith Power and Light, and then into Interfaith Power and Light that has chapters all around the United States, again, helping houses of worship examine their energy usage and make cleaner and greener choices in keeping with their faith tenets. The Garrison Institute in the Hudson Valley of New York was launched in 2003 to bring the wisdom of the world's religious traditions to pressing social problems, including environmental problems. In 2007, the Green Seminary Initiative was launched. This helps train seminary students on environmental issues so that they can share those insights with their future congregations. And in 2014, we saw the Divest the Vatican movement, encouraging the Vatican to divest from fossil fuels as a matter of morality and faith and concern for future generations. And then in 2016, we saw the Standing Rock water protectors expressing their environmental values and calling on their spirituality to protest the Dakota Access Pipeline that would run through sacred land and waters and potentially pollute them. So they were calling on the moral authority of their spirituality. So these are just some examples of how different activist movements have called on the morality and teachings of various religious traditions to support their calls to care for the natural environment. Then here at CIIS, we have a number of conferences and projects. We often participate in the Parliament of the World's Religions, which happens every 5 to 10 years around the world. And this brings together scholars and leaders from many different faith traditions for interreligious dialogue and learning. We participate in the International Society for the Study of Religion, Nature, and Culture, of which I'm presently the secretary. And that group holds conferences in 2019 in Cork, Ireland. There was an online conference in 2021. And then this past February, we met in person at Arizona State University in Tempe. And this is a great conference for emerging scholars. It's very friendly to students, and it's really just a fun group of people. So it's a great group to have an affiliation with. We're also active at the American Academy of Religion. Many of our students and alums present there and even take leadership roles there. Charlie is chair of the Western Region Religion and Ecology Group. I think we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few moments. And we also hold our own conference, the Religion and Ecology Summit at CIIS. This is a way to hear from cutting edge scholars and activists, as well as share work that our graduate students are generating. So here on the screen, there's a picture of me from our last in-person conference in 2019, as well as Carl Anthony in the red shirt. He's one of the founders of the environmental justice movement, and Drew Dellinger in the dark jacket. He's a poet and a graduate of our sibling program, Philosophy, Cosmology, and Consciousness. They were in dialogue. The most recent Religion and Ecology Summit we had was an online summit focused on Indigenous lifeways, cosmologies, and ecology. We wanted to learn more about Indigenous cosmologies, which is really sort of the original religion and ecology teaching or lifeway. And so we invited a number of Indigenous speakers from around the San Francisco Bay Area, as well as around the larger US, to share their insights and their current projects and work with us. We had a number of panels. All of them are available through the Ecology, Spirituality, and Religion website at CIIS. There's a link to our past Religion and Ecology Summits, and all the talks and presentations are available online. I definitely encourage you to listen to them at your convenience if this is a topic of interest to you. Before that, we had our last in-person conference was focused on cosmovision, Thomas Berry and the Great Work. Thomas Berry was a self-proclaimed geologian or theologian of the earth, whose writing and scholarship gave a great deal of inspiration to the field of religion and ecology. He was a mentor to John Graham and Mary Evelyn Tucker, two of the founders of the field of religion and ecology. And they wrote a biography of him that came out in 2019. So on the 10th anniversary of his passing in 2009, we held a conference to look back at Thomas Berry's work and how it had inspired this field. So you can see some photos from our conference there. That was a great deal of fun. And I think I'll take a moment to invite Charlie to talk about the next conference that we're just starting to plan, and also your role in the AAR.
Sure, happy to do that. Next spring, our program is going to be hosting our annual Religion and Ecology Summit on the topic of queer ecologies and religion. The whole premise of this approach and the orientation to this is about extending the discipline of ecology beyond the biological sciences and working with the idea. Obviously, ESR, it's a transdisciplinary program. We're working on bridging different knowledge systems, on bridging language and terminology in order to foster a dialogue around ways of change that can help build a more sustainable world and approach the climate situation and ecological situations that we're in. So I hope that maybe speaks to, next spring. Certainly be on the lookout for whether or not you choose to take this educational journey with us in ESR. We'd love to have you participate in this community event. It's there to bridge community, not just in the Bay Area, but across the globe. But like I mentioned, just it's there to help push the boundaries of traditional. It's meant to push the boundaries of traditional academic, parameters that have been around, say, biology, ecology, gender studies. So yeah, I hope that speaks to it in a way that does it justice, Elizabeth. But and as far as the AAR, believe it or not, I've actually finished my term already, my 3-year term. So the time has gone quite quickly, but I did serve as a unit co-chair for the Ecology and Religion unit for the AAR Western region. This pertains to scholars that fall into the states of California, Nevada, Arizona, the Pacific Islands, Hawaii, and I think Guam as well. So this is a regional conference, but there is a national conference for the AAR, but it's very important for students in our program that are looking to develop their scholarship in the field, as well as for accomplished scholars as well. It's an important forum that holds space and dialogue for this developing field. So, yeah.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, that's amazing that your term is already completed. It goes by fast.
It did indeed.
Yeah. So earlier I mentioned the Forum on Religion and Ecology based at Yale, and I've put the URL on the screen because I really encourage you to check it out regardless of where your educational journey takes you. The Forum on Religion and Ecology is a tremendous compendium, web compendium of all kinds of resources related to the intersection of religion and ecology. There are reading lists, bibliographies, news articles, scholarly articles, statements from different religious traditions about different environmental issues. If you're wondering, what does Islam say about ecology, this is the place to start your research. If you're wondering, what does Christianity say about ecology, you can get some ideas here. There's also announcements of conferences and events. There's job postings. It's just sort of the hub for all things religion and ecology. So it's really worth checking out. And the founders of the Forum on Religion and Ecology are John Grimm and Mary Evelyn Tucker. They taught for many years at Yale. They have just retired from teaching this past spring. But like I said, they're great friends and supporters and mentors of our program. They usually speak at our Religion and Ecology Summits. And so we find this to be a really good partnership and collaboration with the Forum on Religion and Ecology at Yale. And so why would you choose ecology, spirituality, and religion at CIIS? If you've been reading the news at all, or listening to it, or watching the news at all, you know that Earth is in the midst of a great transition. And in fact, excuse me, these past 2 days have been the hottest days on Earth ever recorded since record keeping was started. So that only goes back 150 years or so, but during the time that humans have been keeping records of the temperature on Earth, July 3rd, 4th have been the hottest days that we have records of. And so you're probably aware that the emission of greenhouse gases is causing changes to the atmosphere that then affect our weather, affect our growing seasons, cause migration. We've seen people trying to migrate into Europe to escape terrible conditions in the Middle East and in Northern Africa. So all kinds of changes are going on at a pace and a rate that humans haven't really experienced before. And this is all, of course, due to human activity. So not only is this, as I've been discussing, a policy question, a question of economics, a question of how do we manage this, but it also raises really fundamental philosophical, religious, and spiritual questions. How are all these changes reshaping our worldviews? How are these changes affecting what we understand about what it means to be human? How are they affecting our understanding and our interpretation of our own humanity? How are they reshaping worldviews? Are religions transforming to meet these global transformations on Earth? Can religions transform? Should they transform? What kind of changes are religions seeing? How can we address the ecological trauma that arises from seeing places that we love transformed around us? Here in California, we've had alarming wildfires, fortunately not last year, but the previous years. And people saw beloved places irrevocably changed. Of course, eventually the foliage will regrow, but in the short term, it looks completely different. And people can have a lot of emotional responses to those kind of changes. Are there ways to address this ecological trauma? Do religions and spiritualities have tools that might support people experiencing ecological trauma? What role do imagination, wonder, and awe play in addressing the ecological crisis? If we know that any innovation we bring into the world is first imagined, it first takes shape in someone's mind or in the mind of a collective, how can we perhaps be imagining toward a future that we desire, that is more sustaining, that is more life-giving, that it brings about more flourishing rather than more destruction? We also have a lot of studies that show that experiencing wonder and awe, such as might be experienced observing beautiful scenes in the outdoors or participating in outdoor recreation, those experiences actually lead to more pro-social behaviors, that is more cooperation, more compassion, more love and companionship. There are a lot of studies that show that wonder and awe contribute to these so-called pro-social emotions. And so are there ways that we can draw on outdoor experiences or experiences in nature to bring forward more emotions and more capacities to address ecological crises. We explore what spirituality can offer ecology. Are there certain kinds of spiritualities that are more consonant with ecology or more harmonious with ecology? And then we explore this in the context of changing higher education and the university. We've seen a lot of changes in higher ed these past 3 years during the pandemic. We've seen new modes, more online learning. But what is the proper form for higher ed going forward into this time of immense change? And what kind of different education forms and formats do we need to offer and to participate in? And then finally, how can a community of like-minded scholars support your journey? The Buddhists have the concept of the Sangha, the community of practitioners that helps the Buddhist practitioner or the meditator on their journey toward enlightenment, just by having this sort of support and companionship of a community. And likewise, how can a community of like-minded scholars support you on your journey? So these are some of the questions and the issues that we contemplate and that various students' research addresses within this program. Now, to get to more of the nitty-gritty, the master's degree requires 36 units of coursework, typically completed over 2 years of full-time study at a rate of three unit courses per semester. Part-time study is also possible. For the purpose of federal financial aid, part-time study is defined as 6 units per semester. Obviously, part-time work then requires more time to complete the degree, but that's possible. And students take courses in ecology, religion, philosophy, and feminism, globalization, and justice. There are 9 units of electives that can be taken in those other programs in the School of Consciousness and Transformation. They can also be taken within ecology, spirituality, and religion. And the master's degree concludes with an integrative seminar, a capstone course in lieu of a thesis. And this is a course that guides students in synthesizing and summarizing what they've been studying, and then developing that into a public talk that they share with the assembled community online that synthesizes what they have become an expert in. Then the doctoral program also requires 36 units of coursework, typically completed over 2 years of full-time study. Part-time study is also possible at 6 units per semester. And then following that coursework, students take 2 comprehensive exams, 1 per semester in 2 consecutive semesters. These are extended papers that address some of the topics the students have been studying. And then the students write their doctoral dissertations, which requires 2 to 4 or even more years, depending on what else is going on in a person's life. First, the student writes the dissertation proposal, which is basically a roadmap to the work that they're going to do and why it's important, and also what's already known about this topic. So it involves a literature review. The student forms a guiding dissertation committee that consists of 2 core faculty members from within CIIS and 1 faculty member with an appointment at another university. Then there's the research and writing of the doctoral dissertation, followed by an oral defense, which is an oral presentation to the guiding committee as well as the assembled community, and then some questions and answers about the research. And as I said, that phase of researching and writing the dissertation can be, if someone's really focused, it can be done in probably around 3 years. That's about the fastest I've seen it done. Oftentimes people have a lot of other things going on in their life, and it could stretch out a little longer or a lot longer. Core faculty members in this program are myself with expertise in environmental studies and religious studies, Jacob Sherman with expertise in philosophy of religion and Christianity and ecology, We have to update this since Brian Swim has retired. We have a number of awesome adjunct faculty members who teach a course in their particular specialty. Aaron Weiss on Buddhism and ecology, Lori Glover on environmental writing, Charlotte Sens on decolonizing ecologies, Sundari Johansson on Hinduism and ecology, and Rachel Vaughn teaching a course on eco-emotions this fall. And I'd like to show you some of our current and upcoming courses. I'm not going to read these all, but I'll leave them on the screen for a moment just for you to take a look at sort of the range of courses that are offered and some of the topics. These generally repeat on a more or less 2-year cycle. Not every course will repeat in every cycle, but the core courses for sure are offered on a 2-year cycle. And then moving along, we also have wonderful, fascinating dissertation topics coming out of our doctoral students. Some recent dissertation topics that people have completed their dissertations are, for example, when rocks and faith come together, metapraxis of Julian Tennyson Woods and Pierre Desjardins by Dr. Marianne Casanova, Arboreality, Revisioning Trees in the Western Paradigm by Dr. Laura Pustarfi, Unlikely Ground, a Grounded Theory Study, Spirituality, Worldview, and Agricultural Practice on a Jewish Urban Farm by Dr. Elena Coons, Rewilding Activism, Weaving Resistance, Reskilling, and Remembering by Dr. Michael, oops, I forgot his last name.
Wellman, Michael Lynn Wellman.
Dr. Michael Lynn Wellman, thank you. Greening America's Virtues by Dr. Nick Mather, The Voice of the Decolonial Wild Toward an Ecological Self by Dr. Kimberly Carfor, and The Back of Beyond, the Red Book of C.G. Jung and J.R.R. Tolkien by Dr. Rebecca Tarnas. So you can see it's really a broad range of interests, all very interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary, and all trying to put forward a new paradigm at the intersection of religion and ecology. Oh, sorry, I lost one there. The Primal Metaphysics of Becoming Animal During the Chasing Hunt in the Kalahari Desert by Dr. Chantal Forbes. And then for our master's students, they have the concluding capstone course. They also participate in a practicum where they provide 100 hours of service with an environmental organization in their location to develop some professional skills, to develop their network, to put into practice some of the theories and concepts that they're studying in ecology, spirituality, and religion. And so here are some of the places where master's students have conducted their practicum. And again, these really range depending on students' particular interests. Wild Rescue works with rescuing wildlife. Institute of Noetic Sciences is interested in consciousness studies. Earth Law Center works on changing law and policy to become more environmentally friendly. Citizens Climate Lobby works on environmental issues. Earth House Center is a local Bay Area nonprofit working on environmental justice. Jedward Films that works on socially conscious films. So you can see that's a really wide range of sites where students have served. And this is just to give you an idea of what the possibilities are for the practicum. And then what do our students do? Students have worked in government, working on water issues with the Canadian government. Some of our students have been really involved in activism, for example, keeping coal out of the port of Oakland here in the Bay Area as an environmental justice issue. Our students have been involved in social entrepreneurship, starting new organizations, as Charlie did with starting the Deep Water initiative that I'll invite him to speak about in just a moment. But that's an organization that came out of his studies. Students work in nonprofit organizations. We have many students involved in teaching and youth mentoring in various ways, ranging from university teaching to mentoring younger high school students and younger children. Students have taken on intellectual leadership in advancing discourse on the Anthropocene, this human-dominated age, and thinking about how do we change paradigms and how do we change philosophies and religions. Students have been very active in promoting ecological concern at the American Academy of Religion, working on the greening efforts there, and also working on greening the university, helping CIIS become a greener university, walking our talk regarding environmental sustainability. So students have really taken on a range of professional goals following their studies with ESR. Charlie, would you like to speak on the Deep Water Initiative?
Sure, I would be happy to do that. So as Dr. Allison here was mentioning, you know, I am a graduate of program, of the master's program, the MA track. And as part of that curriculum, we do a practicum. And for me at the time, I was very, really interested in film as a medium to help instigate dialogue about certain social and ecological issues. So the practicum is set up essentially to help you facilitate the path that is going to be best served for what the direction you want to go professionally in your life. So for me, at the time, I was beginning to work with ICP, which is essentially a whole consortium of universities that come together, and they hold they have a study abroad program based on climate change, and they begin in San Francisco, and all of these students sort of go on a world tour as they learn about, you know, certain issues. So at the time of my practicum, I was working with them to develop programming to help educate them about religion and ecology. So I was sort of like at their first stop. So what Professor Allison here is mentioning, I also had the opportunity at the time to partner with ESR and to sort of put on the first iteration of a Religion and Ecology Film Fest, which in the name of that I founded, the Deepwater Initiative, it's sort of playing on a couple of things here. The idea is that I'm very much interested in stories that literally work with water and with people that are affected by water, but also with it being a bit more metaphorical in the sense that, you know, when we think about deep water, we think about maybe offshore drilling or something like that. But I'm intentionally trying to turn the phrase, I'm playing with this idea of Tehom, the waters of the deep, that comes out of the book of Genesis in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament. So in essence, the point is water can heal, but it also conceals. So it's about bringing to light kind of these ideas and these conversations that need to happen. I went on that tangent just to maybe give you all a little bit of an idea of how one could potentially approach studies in religion and ecology, and also through the nonprofit work. This is something that moved on and transformed a bit. After that film festival, I went on to develop educational programming. And so, for example, I lived in Utah for quite some time. I worked with the Jewish Federation there to develop climate change education and religion and ecology education for all of their Hebrew schools. So yeah, I hope that again speaks to that point. But happy to answer any more questions if anyone is curious.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Charlie. Yeah, it's really inspirational how Charlie took the material he was studying and then developed this program to take out into the world. And that is a really nice segue. Charlie said he'd be happy to answer any more questions. We have come to the end of our structured presentation here. You're always welcome to reach out to us with questions. As I mentioned at the beginning, Charlie would be the best person to ask sort of administrative or logistical questions. His email is cforbes1. And Nia Teague, who isn't with us today, is our admissions counselor. She's very helpful. So any particular questions you might have about or also getting connected with financial aid, she would be the person to ask, and her email address is here on the screen. It's nteague@ciis.edu, nteague@ciis.edu. And my email is here as well. You can also find us on our website. It has a lot of information. If some of this went by too fast and you're like, wait, how many units of coursework? That's on the website. What are the courses like? That's on the website. We're on Facebook and Instagram, so you can follow us here, there, and get some tidbits of information and updates about ESR and updates about the field of religion and ecology. So at this point, I would like to stop sharing the screen and open this up for any questions that you all may have about information that you've heard today. Thank you again for attending.